Don't let go of my hand. Please, God, don't let go. The words cracked through the frozen night like glass shattering on pavement. Naomi Brooks's breath came out in sharp clouds as she dug her boots into the ice, her gloved hands gripping the frail wrist of the old woman dangling half off the curb. Traffic roared inches away, headlights slicing through sleet. Somewhere behind her, her phone buzzed again, her manager from Quick Bite Delivery yelling through the Bluetooth earpiece. Naomi, you're late again. One more screw-up and you're done. She couldn't answer. The woman's knees buckled, and Naomi hauled with all her strength, pulling her upright. The woman's coat was paper-thin, her lips bluish, eyes glassy with confusion. Don't let go, the woman repeated. Barely a whisper this time. Naomi steadied her, wrapping her own scarf around the woman's shoulders. I've got you, ma'am. Just breathe. Okay? You're safe. The service dog tied near the bus bench barked frantically, pawing at the ground. Naomi recognized the low growl. It was a trained response, not aggression but alarm. You're diabetic, aren't you? She murmured, remembering the subtle clues her mother once taught her. The woman didn't respond. Her eyelids fluttered. Naomi glanced at her phone again. 9:12 p.m. The delivery should have been dropped off 5 minutes ago. If she didn't make it, she'd lose the job. Maybe the tiny room she rented behind the laundromat. She could almost hear her supervisor's voice, cold and certain. We don't pay for excuses. A horn blared. The dog lunged against its leash. The woman slumped. That decided it. Naomi hooked an arm around the woman's waist, half lifting, half dragging her toward the corner. Hold on, ma'am, we're getting you somewhere warm. Her legs trembled from the effort. The blizzard gnawed at her cheeks. When a delivery bike skidded by, she shouted, "Call 911. But the rider sped off. Typical. Nobody wanted to get involved. She lowered the woman onto the back of her own bike, strapping her loosely with the messenger bag. The woman's head rested against Naomi's shoulder. The dog followed, leash dragging, nails clicking on the slick sidewalk. Naomi pedaled hard through the storm, tires crunching over salt and ice, each turn of the wheel a battle. Sirens wailed somewhere distant. But she couldn't wait. The hospital sat 6 blocks away. Forever when you're fighting wind that feels like knives. Her thighs burned, lungs seared. Stay with me, she muttered between breaths. We're almost there. The woman's hand clutched hers weakly, and something about that trembling touch, warm despite the cold, made Naomi blink away tears she hadn't felt coming. She didn't even know this woman's name. Maybe nobody did. Outside the ER bay, she yelled for help. 2 nurses ran out, taking the woman from her arms. One recognized the medical bracelet beneath the coat sleeve and gasped. Eleanor Whitmore? Naomi stepped back, stunned. The name meant nothing to her then, only that the staff suddenly moved faster, as if some invisible switch had flipped. She didn't wait for thanks or questions. When a nurse reached for her, Naomi shook her head, whispering, "She'll be okay now," then turned and pushed her bike into the snow. The cold stung deeper now that the adrenaline faded. Her scarf was gone, still around that woman's shoulders. She smiled faintly. Maybe that was enough. Maybe doing the right thing didn't need witnesses. She didn't notice her phone vibrating again, or the red text message that appeared on the screen. You're fired. By the time she reached Maple Avenue, her fingers were numb. The lights of Harold's Convenience Mart glowed weakly in the storm. She parked the bike against the wall and went inside, the bell above the door jangling. Heat hit her face, carrying the scent of old coffee and microwaved burritos. Harold Miller looked up from behind the counter, his gray mustache twitching into a smile. Well, if it isn't my night shift angel. You look frozen, kiddo. Naomi tried to smile back, though her lips ached. Just needed a minute to thaw, Mr. Harold. He poured cocoa from a stained thermos. You on delivery tonight? Roads are suicide. Not anymore, she said quietly. Guess I'm unemployed. He raised an eyebrow but didn't press. Sit. Warm up. You can stock shelves for a few bucks later if you want. In the corner, Evan Reed, the assistant manager, snorted. Figures. Always someone else getting charity around here. Harold shot him a look. Watch your mouth, Evan. Naomi ignored them both, wrapping her hands around the warm cup. The cocoa tasted like burnt sugar and home. Through the window, the snow kept falling soft, relentless. She thought about the woman's hand again, the fragile pulse under her skin. Don't let go. The words wouldn't leave her. She wondered if the lady had anyone waiting for her, or if she, too, went home to silence. Somewhere outside, sirens faded. Naomi finished the drink and stood. Thanks, Mr. Harold. I'll come back in the morning, if that's okay. He nodded. You got it. Keep your chin up, kid. The world's rough, but it ain't heartless. She almost believed him. But when she stepped out, the wind clawed her coat open and the night felt colder than before. She pedaled toward her apartment, the wheels slipping on ice. Each block looked the same: dark houses, wreaths drooping under snow, windows glowing with other people's warmth. Her building stood like a ghost at the end of the street. She climbed the stairs 2 at a time, heart heavy. The lock wouldn't turn. A yellow notice fluttered on the door. Eviction, non-payment. Her chest hollowed out. She sat on the steps, backpack at her feet, snow collecting in her hair. From somewhere nearby came laughter, muffled through glass, families watching TV. The smell of stew drifting through vents. Her phone buzzed again, this time a text from Harold. If you need a place to crash tonight, the storage room's warm. Doors open. She stared at it for a long time, then smiled through tears. There's still a few hearts left, she thought. As she wheeled her bike back toward the store, she caught her reflection in a frosted window, young, tired, scarfless, but in her eyes burned the same quiet fire she'd seen in her mother's once. The kind that refused to go out, no matter how cold the world became. Behind her, unnoticed, the hospital's TV flickered with breaking news. Local teen saves prominent philanthropist Eleanor Whitmore. But Naomi didn't see it. She was already pedaling into the snow, one hand gripping the handlebars, the other still aching with the memory of a stranger's desperate plea. Don't let go of my hand. Snow still clung to Naomi's boots the next morning as she wiped down the counter at Harold's store. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, and the heater rattled like it might give up any minute. She'd slept on a pile of cardboard near the stockroom heater, listening to trucks roll by in the dark. Harold had left her a note. Coffee's on. Help yourself. Simple kindness. But it almost broke her. She poured herself a cup. The bitter smell steadying her nerves. Outside, the storm had passed, leaving Maple Brook washed in brittle sunlight. The world looked calm again, but she knew how thin peace could be. Evan arrived late, shaking snow off his jacket. He gave her a long, pointed look. Didn't know we were running a shelter now, he muttered. She bit her tongue, refusing to rise. Harold caught it though. She earned her keep last night. Don't start. Evan shrugged and disappeared into the storeroom. Naomi's stomach twisted. She'd learned long ago that men like him didn't forget grudges. She stocked shelves, lined up cans with quiet precision, trying not to think about her phone. No new messages, no job offers. Around noon, a customer entered, bundled in fur, sunglasses indoors. Her perfume hit like money. Naomi recognized the logo on the woman's tote. Whitmore Industries. Her heart tripped. Could it be connected? The woman bought bottled water, smiled vaguely, and left. Naomi stared after her, the name echoing through her head. Whitmore. That was what the nurse had said. Eleanor Whitmore. She whispered it under her breath, tasting the syllables. The name sounded important, like something out of the local news Herald played every morning. She remembered the nurses rushing, the way their faces changed when they saw the bracelet. Whoever that woman was, she mattered. And Naomi had just biked her through a blizzard. You okay, kid? Harold's voice pulled her back. She blinked. Yeah. Just tired. He leaned on the counter. You look like somebody wrestling with the universe. Take a break. She almost smiled. Do you believe people get what they deserve, Mr. Harold? He thought about it. Eventually. Might take a while. Justice runs on small-town time. That night, she stayed late, mopping the aisles. The radio hummed Christmas classics from 20 years ago. Her mother used to hum along to the same songs while folding laundry. When the store closed, Harold locked up, tossed her a set of spare keys. For the back room, he said. Cold out there tonight. Gratitude caught in her throat. Thank you. He waved it off. You'd do the same for me. She wasn't so sure, but she nodded anyway. Sleep came light, full of flashes. The woman's pale face, the sound of traffic, that plea, "Don't let go." By morning, the headlines had changed. Local teen hero saves Whitmore heiress. One paper read. But Naomi never saw it. She was in the stockroom unpacking deliveries when Evan burst in. "You're famous," he sneered. "The crazy lady you dragged in last night? She's some kind of billionaire. Guess your little stunt paid off." She froze, box cutter midair. "What are you talking about? Check the news, sweetheart. You're trending." His tone was poison disguised as charm. She grabbed her phone. There it was, her photo, grainy and half-shadowed outside the ER doors. Someone had taken it from across the street. "Teen delivers unconscious philanthropist to hospital during snowstorm." Her name wasn't printed, but the town was small. It wouldn't take long. "Guess we'll have reporters swarming soon," Evan said. "Better get your autograph ready." He left laughing. Harold found her staring at the screen. "You okay?" She shook her head. "I didn't do it for this." He sighed. "The world doesn't care why, kid. Only how it looks." By afternoon, he was right. A local journalist showed up, polite but relentless, asking questions Naomi couldn't answer. Then a black SUV parked outside. A tall man in a wool coat stepped in, crisp, calm, official. "I'm looking for Naomi Brooks." Harold stiffened. "Who's asking?" "Caleb Jones," the man said, showing a badge from the Whitmore Foundation. "Mrs. Whitmore asked me to find her." Naomi's heart stumbled. "She's awake?" "Very much so," she insisted. Caleb's voice was even, but his eyes softened when he saw her confusion. "You saved her life, Miss Brooks. She'd like to thank you in person." Evan snorted from the register. "Guess playing hero really does pay." Harold shot him a look sharp enough to cut glass. "Ignore him," he told Naomi. "If you want to go, I'll cover your shift." She hesitated, hands trembling around her phone. Every instinct screamed caution. But something in Caleb's steady tone disarmed her. "Okay," she said finally. "Just give me 5 minutes." The ride to the Whitmore estate felt unreal. The SUV's leather seats, the quiet hum of tires over slush, it was another world. She stared out the window as the town blurred by. The diner, the thrift store, the cracked church sign still flashing, "God is love," with half its bulbs dead. When the gates appeared, tall, iron, snow-dusted, she couldn't breathe. The mansion beyond looked like something from a history book. Columns, chimneys, a fountain frozen mid-splash. Caleb guided her inside. Heat, marble, chandeliers. Her sneakers squeaked on polished floors. In the parlor, by a roaring fire, sat the woman from the storm, alive, alert, wrapped in a soft shawl. Eleanor Whitmore's hair was silver white now, brushed smooth. She smiled when she saw Naomi. "There's my guardian angel." Naomi blinked. Too stunned to speak. Eleanor motioned her closer. "You gave me your scarf," she said, touching the fabric folded in her lap. "I thought I'd lost it, but my nurse told me you left it there." "You were freezing," Naomi murmured. "Anyone would have done the same." "No," Eleanor said gently. "Not anyone. I fell 3 times before you stopped. Dozens passed me by. You didn't." The room fell silent but for the crackle of the fire. Naomi's eyes stung. "I didn't want you to die out there." Eleanor reached out, her hand warm now. "And you didn't. So I owe you more than thanks." She nodded to Caleb. He set a small folder on the table. "This is an offer," Eleanor explained. "A short-term position at my foundation, clerical work, part-time. If you'd consider it." Naomi's throat tightened. I mean, I'm not qualified." "You're exactly what I need," Eleanor said. "Someone who acts before asking what's in it for them." The words landed deep. Naomi looked down, blinking fast. I'll try my best. That's all I ask." Caleb smiled faintly. "We'll arrange transport." And Naomi, "Thank you." As they left the estate, dusk painted the sky bruised purple. Naomi pressed her forehead to the window, heart racing. Maybe things could change. Maybe her mother had been right. Kindness never vanished, it just took time to come home. Behind them, the mansion's windows glowed like stars. She didn't see the shadow of Evan leaning against the convenience store window later that night, scrolling through his phone. Her photo was everywhere now, her name attached. His jaw tightened as he typed a caption under a grainy screenshot. Homeless teen scams, old woman with dementia. He hit post, smirking. The first comment appeared seconds later. Typical. They always find a way. Inside the SUV, Naomi whispered to herself, unaware of the storm about to come. Maybe the world really isn't heartless after all. The first week at the Whitmore Foundation felt like stepping into a life Naomi had only seen through glass. The office sat inside a renovated brick building downtown, its lobby full of framed photographs, smiling children, hospital wings, scholarship recipients. She typed donor receipts, filed letters, learned to navigate the hum of printers and polite voices. Eleanor stopped by most mornings with her service dog, Bailey, who rested near Naomi's desk, tail thumping whenever she passed. "You're settling in beautifully," Eleanor said one afternoon, handing her a cup of tea. "Most people your age drown in the details." Naomi smiled awkwardly. "I used to organize shelves at a convenience store. It's not so different. Except this time, every can you stack feeds a soul," Eleanor replied softly. That kind of talk embarrassed Naomi, but she liked the old woman's sincerity. Each day she stayed later, taking comfort in the quiet rhythm of order returning to her life. Still, she could feel eyes on her, curious glances from senior staff who whispered when they thought she wasn't listening. By the end of the week, the whispers had turned into looks of open judgment. Caleb, ever professional, noticed. "Ignore them," he advised. "Rumors burn out fast." But he was wrong. They were just catching fire. Saturday morning, Harold called. "You seen what's online, kid?" Naomi frowned, phone wedged between her shoulder and ear as she sorted files. "What do you mean?" "Check your name." Her fingers trembled as she opened her browser. There it was, Evan's post, viral overnight. The headline screamed, "Local teen con artist preys on billionaire with dementia." Hundreds of comments followed. "She's faking everything. Another scammer playing the victim." Of course the old lady fell for it. The words blurred. Her stomach flipped. Harold's voice came through again, low and angry. "I'm sorry, Naomi. That bastard twisted it all. I tried reporting the post, but it's spreading faster than I can keep up." Naomi barely whispered. "Why would he do that?" "Jealous men don't need reasons," Harold said. "Keep your chin up. Truth wins in the long run." But truth, she realized, didn't trend. By noon, the foundation's receptionist was fielding calls from reporters. Caleb ushered her into his office. "I've seen it," he said before she could speak. "Mrs. Whitmore has too. She's furious. We're contacting legal, but I need you to stay off social media." "It's my name," Naomi said quietly. "They're calling me a liar." "I know," he said. "But right now, silence protects you more than words." That night, she sat on her bed in the small apartment Eleanor had arranged for her near the office, staring at the ceiling. She had nothing to hide, yet she felt guilty anyway, as if decency itself were on trial. Her phone buzzed with messages from strangers, some cruel, some curious, some pretending to be supportive but dripping with pity. The next morning, Eleanor insisted she join her for brunch at her mansion. The table gleamed under crystal light, but Naomi could barely swallow. "I never imagined kindness could be so expensive," she murmured. Eleanor reached across the table, her hand trembling slightly from her medication. "Don't you let them steal your heart, child. They mock what they can't understand." Naomi looked up. "It's not just them. It's people I knew. I thought they'd defend me." "Reputation," Eleanor said, "is a glass house. Once a stone hits it, people run to watch it break." Outside, snow began again, thin flakes drifting past the window. Naomi watched in silence. Later that day, as she returned to the foundation, two journalists waited by the steps. Microphones ready. "Naomi Brooks, can we ask, did you approach Mrs. Whitmore intentionally? Did you know who she was?" She froze. Caleb appeared behind her, face cold. "No comment," he said, guiding her inside. But cameras clicked anyway. Within hours, the clips were online. Naomi's pale, startled face paired with captions like "Teen avoids questions in charity scandal." That evening, Eleanor's grandnephew, Trevor Whitmore, arrived from Chicago. Slick, handsome, and all confidence, he greeted Naomi with a smile that never touched his eyes. "So you're the miracle worker," he said, shaking her hand too tightly. "Aunt Eleanor's told me all about you." "I'm just doing my job," she replied. "Of course," he said, smirking. "Let's hope the rest of the world sees it that way." Caleb watched the exchange warily. After Trevor left, he warned, "Be careful. He's family, but not always kind." Naomi nodded, though she didn't yet understand what kind of danger kindness could attract. 2 days later, the Board of Trustees called an emergency meeting. Trevor led it, arguing that Eleanor's health made her decisions susceptible to manipulation. He suggested suspending Naomi until the investigation cleared her name. Eleanor slammed her cane against the floor. "Enough. This girl saved my life. And I trust her more than any of you." But Naomi saw how the accusation wounded her. The stress drew color from Eleanor's cheeks. That night, as Naomi helped her back to her room, the old woman whispered, "They think I'm losing my mind. Don't let them rewrite the truth, Naomi." "I won't," she promised, though she had no idea how to fight a storm this big. The next morning, the first hate letter arrived. An envelope slid under her apartment door, the words scrawled in red, "Gold digger." She crumpled it, heart pounding. Caleb insisted she stay inside until things calmed. "It'll pass," he said, but even he didn't sound convinced. Each day grew heavier, the foundation's corridors colder. Staff members avoided her. Even Bailey seemed subdued, sensing tension. Naomi tried to keep busy typing, filing, but her thoughts spun. Every click of a keyboard sounded like judgment. The whispers returned, "She's only here because the old woman's lost it. Maybe she really played her." It was a new kind of loneliness, being seen everywhere yet believed by no one. One evening, Harold called again. "You still hanging in there?" "Barely. Listen, don't lose faith. I've got something. Remember the store cameras? I might still have backup footage. Maybe it'll help clear you." She swallowed hard. "You kept that?" "Never deleted anything. Old habits." For the first time in days, a flicker of hope warmed her. "Thank you, Harold. You're a good man. Just returning a favor, kid. You once saved a stranger in the snow. I figure I can save one friend in a storm." When the call ended, Naomi sat by the window, watching snow gather on the glass. Across town, Evan stared at his screen, the number of views climbing past 1 million. But beneath his smirk, unease grew. He hadn't expected this much chaos. Trevor, meanwhile, saw an opportunity. Over dinner with board members, he proposed transferring Eleanor's voting power temporarily for her own protection. By the time Naomi learned about it, signatures were already being gathered. She confronted Caleb, voice shaking. "They're taking her foundation." "We'll stop them," he said. But the look in his eyes wasn't confident, it was desperate. That night, she couldn't sleep. She thought of her mother's voice. "When you see someone standing alone in the cold, don't leave them there." Maybe this storm wasn't meant to destroy her. Maybe it was her test. She lay awake until dawn, listening to the city's heartbeat, knowing something had to break soon, truth or trust, one or the other. Outside, snow kept falling, soft and endless, as if the sky itself refused to stop crying for the world's forgotten kindness. The storm that finally broke wasn't snow but noise, headlines, alerts, cameras, voices, all crashing at once. Naomi woke to the vibration of her phone on the nightstand. The screen lit her face in the dark. "Breaking: Whitmore Foundation embroiled in scandal. Sources claim young employee manipulated elderly founder." She sat up, heart thundering, scrolling through photos of herself entering the mansion, the same scarf now infamous. The comments burned like acid. "She's playing her. Poor old lady. Knew it was too good to be true." She dropped the phone, hands shaking. The knock on her door made her flinch. "Naomi?" Caleb's voice. "We need to leave. Now." She opened the door to see his face drawn tight, his tie loose. "Reporters found your address," he said. "They're outside." Through the blinds, flashes burst like lightning. "Mrs. Whitmore's asking for you. She's not well." Naomi grabbed her coat, heart pounding as Caleb guided her through the back stairwell. Outside, icy wind cut through her sleeves, but adrenaline kept her moving. The SUV waited at the curb. As they pulled away, cameras swarmed, shouting questions. Miss Brooks? Did you falsify documents? Are you Mrs. Whitmore's caretaker or her con? Caleb gunned the engine. Silence settled only once they hit the main road. Who's feeding them this? Naomi asked. Caleb's jaw flexed. Trevor. He leaked internal memos, twisted emails to make it look like you had access to donor funds. That's insane, she whispered. He's trying to take over the foundation. Caleb nodded. And he's winning. When they arrived, the mansion no longer looked grand but besieged. News vans lined the gates, their antennas reaching like metal thorns. Security waved them through. Inside, Eleanor sat by the fire, pale and trembling, Bailey pressed to her knees. Her voice cracked when she saw Naomi. They want me to sign guardianship papers, dear. They say I'm not fit. Don't, Naomi said, kneeling beside her. He's using this chaos to control you. I know, Eleanor whispered, eyes glistening. But I'm tired. And the world believes him. Naomi's throat tightened. Then we'll show them the truth. Trevor entered, immaculate as always, carrying a stack of documents. Aunt Ellie, he said smoothly. I understand this is hard, but you need rest. Let us manage things. He turned to Naomi. And you should pack. The board voted to suspend you pending investigation. Naomi stood. You framed me. His smile didn't waver. You should be careful with accusations, Miss Brooks. You wouldn't want to make things worse for yourself. I'm not scared of you, she said, though fear coiled in her chest. You should be, he replied, then to Eleanor, voice dripping with pity. Sign it, Auntie. It's just paperwork. Eleanor's hand shook as she reached for the pen. Naomi grabbed it gently. Don't, she pleaded. Trevor's eyes hardened. Enough. Security appeared at the door. Caleb stepped forward, blocking them. She's not signing anything today. Trevor glared. You'll regret this. He turned and strode out. The silence afterward was thick, broken only by the fire's crackle. Eleanor's breath came shallow. They'll destroy everything your kindness built, Naomi whispered. Then we'll build it again, Eleanor murmured. But we need proof. Caleb nodded slowly. Harold called me. He said he's got something backup footage from his store, maybe even timestamps that contradict Trevor's claims. If we can show that your actions were genuine, we can dismantle this narrative. Naomi stood. Then we get it. But Trevor had anticipated her. By the time she and Caleb reached the store that evening, the front windows were smashed, glass glittering under the streetlights. Police lights flashed red and blue. Harold stood near the doorway, shoulders slumped. They broke in, he said. Took the computer. Said it was evidence. Naomi's heart sank. Who? Private investigators. Harold spat. Not cops. Whitmore's lawyers. Caleb muttered a curse. He's burying everything. Naomi stared at the debris, fury and despair mixing in her chest. Then we find another way. That night, she couldn't rest. The wind howled through the alley behind her apartment, carrying the echoes of reporters still shouting her name. She sat by the window, laptop open, tracing every trace of Trevor's leaks. There had to be something, some inconsistency. Her mother's voice drifted through memory. When the truth hides, don't chase it. Shine a light where it's afraid to stand. At dawn, the light found her literally. Her screen pinged with an email from Harold. They didn't get everything. Check the GoPro. Confused, she called him immediately. GoPro? He chuckled weakly. Remember Bailey? The service dog? I used him to test that little camera for security footage. Forgot to wipe it. It might have caught you that night at the bus stop. Naomi's heart leapt. Harold, that's... Don't thank me yet, kid. Get it before they do. I'll send the file through Caleb's secure line. By midday, Caleb had the footage copied onto a flash drive. Together they reviewed it at the foundation after hours. Grainy but unmistakable Naomi hauling Eleanor out of the road. Cars skidding. The scarf fluttering. It's enough, Caleb said, exhaling. But we need a bigger audience. Trevor controls the board, the press. We'll take it to the public hearing tomorrow. Naomi hesitated. He'll try to stop us. Then he'll have to do it in front of cameras. The next day, the Whitmore Foundation's public hall overflowed with reporters. Trevor stood at the podium, confidence radiating. Our family regrets recent events. We're pursuing legal remedies to protect Mrs. Whitmore's assets from exploitation. Naomi and Caleb slipped in through a side door, Harold beside them. Eleanor sat near the front, pale but resolute. When Trevor finished, Naomi stepped forward. "May I speak?" Murmurs rippled. Trevor sneered. "This isn't your platform." Eleanor's voice rose, frail but firm. "Let her." Naomi plugged the flash drive into the projector. The screen flickered to life, the storm, the dog, the rescue. Gasps filled the room. The footage ended with Naomi's voice. "Hold on, ma'am. You're safe." For a moment, silence. Then reporters surged. "Miss Brooks, can you comment?" Trevor sputtered. "This proves nothing. Anyone could stage." But Caleb interrupted. "We've also submitted hospital records confirming Mrs. Whitmore's medical emergency, time-stamped calls to 911, and bank logs proving no missing funds." Eleanor stood, leaning on her cane. "I may be old," she said, voice trembling with power. "But I am not foolish. This young woman is my proof that decency still exists." The applause began softly, then grew. Trevor's face drained of color as cameras turned on him. In that instant, Naomi saw something like defeat flash behind his eyes. Justice didn't roar. It simply revealed itself. She looked toward Eleanor, who smiled through tears. Outside, snow began again, fine as dust. Caleb whispered, "We did it." Naomi nodded, her chest loosening for the first time in weeks. Yet somewhere deep down, she sensed this wasn't the end but the hinge between survival and something larger, the moment when a storm stops destroying and starts cleansing. As they left the hall, Harold clapped her shoulder. "Told you truth wins, kid. Just takes longer in the cold." Naomi laughed softly, the sound fragile but real. Above them, the world felt new, as if even the snow had chosen to fall kinder. The morning after the hearing, Naomi woke to sunlight cutting through the blinds, sharp and golden. For the first time in months, the silence didn't feel hostile. Outside, the town that had once turned its back now greeted her with cautious smiles. News vans still lingered, but the headlines had changed. "Teen hero clears her name," truth caught on camera. Harold called early, his voice bright. "Kid, you're on every channel. Even the local pastor mentioned you in his sermon. Said kindness comes back around like winter light. You did good." Naomi laughed, a sound full of relief and disbelief. But beneath the surface, she felt the weight of unfinished business. Trevor hadn't vanished, men like him never did. By mid-morning, Caleb confirmed it. "He's threatening a civil suit for defamation," he said, pacing her small office at the foundation. "He's desperate. But dangerous. We need to stay ahead." "Let him sue," Naomi said quietly. "The truth's not afraid of daylight." Caleb paused, studying her. "You've changed. Maybe I just stopped apologizing for being right." They both smiled, the kind born from exhaustion and shared war. Around noon, Eleanor summoned her to the mansion. When Naomi arrived, she found the old woman by the piano, Bailey at her feet, sunlight making her hair look like silver thread. "You look lighter," Eleanor said, setting her teacup down. "That's what vindication does." Naomi sat across from her. "Vindication's nice, but it doesn't erase the damage. People believed him so easily." "They always do," Eleanor said. "Fear loves simple stories, heroes and villains. It takes patience to see truth between the lines." She reached for a folder on the piano and handed it to Naomi. "Inside are the documents I signed this morning. You're now co-trustee of the Whitmore Light Foundation. Caleb's already filed it." Naomi blinked. "Mrs. Whitmore. I can't." "You can," Eleanor said. "You already are. The world needs young eyes that still see goodness." Naomi felt the tears before she could stop them. "Why me?" "Because you reminded me what wealth is for. It's not to build walls, it's to keep the lights on for those who've been left in the dark." They talked for hours. About rebuilding the foundation's reputation. About programs for kids who aged out of foster care. About financial literacy workshops for single mothers. Every plan felt like a brick laid towards something real. But peace didn't last long. By evening, a courier arrived with a thick envelope stamped Whitmore Legal Division. Trevor's lawyers were demanding an audit of Naomi's role, accusing her of exploiting public sympathy for personal gain. Caleb slammed the papers onto her desk. He's not giving up. Naomi looked at the folder, calm. Then we fight on paper instead of online. She contacted Harold, who reached out to local reporters who'd covered the first story. Within days, new headlines appeared. Trevor Whitmore faces internal investigation. The board, embarrassed by their earlier vote, turned on him quickly. Emails leaked showing his attempt to transfer foundation funds into a private account. By the end of the week, the same reporters who once doubted Naomi were camping outside Trevor's condo. Justice, she thought, didn't need revenge. It just needed evidence and time. One night, after another long day of meetings, Naomi found Eleanor in the study, staring at old photographs. "You okay?" Naomi asked softly. Eleanor smiled faintly. "Just thinking how fragile legacy is. My husband built an empire, but one winter storm nearly buried it. Then a girl with a bike showed up." Naomi laughed. "I was just trying to help." "That's exactly what changed everything," Eleanor said. She took Naomi's hand, the same gesture from that night at the bus stop. "Promise me you'll keep helping, even when it hurts." "I promise." Outside, the snow began again, quiet and forgiving. Weeks passed. The foundation's reputation recovered faster than anyone expected. Donations poured in. Volunteers returned. Naomi worked late every night, drafting plans, answering letters from people across the country who'd seen her story. One note read, "Your kindness made me believe again." Another, from a retired nurse. "You remind me of my daughter. Keep going." Those messages fueled her more than any paycheck ever could. Still, she stayed wary. One afternoon, Caleb entered with a cautious smile. Trevor withdrew his lawsuit. Naomi exhaled. "He's done?" "More like cornered. The board forced him to resign, and law enforcement's looking into fraud. He'll be quiet for a while." Naomi nodded, though part of her pitied him. "I don't hate him," she said. "He just forgot what power's supposed to be for." Caleb's gaze softened. "So what will you do now that you're free?" She looked out the window, where sunlight melted the last of the snow. "Build something that lasts." Months rolled into summer. Maple Brook bloomed gardens, festivals, laughter in streets that once whispered her name with suspicion. The foundation launched new initiatives. Scholarships, job training, neighborhood cleanups. Eleanor insisted on attending every ribbon cutting, even when her doctor warned against the cold. "Let them see, I'm still here," she'd joke. Naomi loved her for that stubborn grace. Then one evening, Eleanor collapsed quietly in her chair. Naomi was there within seconds. But the paramedics came too late. The town mourned together. Churches filled. Flags lowered. The news called her the matriarch of mercy. Naomi felt hollow, but when she stood at the podium at the memorial, her voice didn't tremble. "She once told me kindness was a kind of strength. Today, I know she was right. It holds the world together when everything else falls apart." The next day, Caleb brought her an envelope Eleanor had left for her. Inside was a handwritten note. "For the girl who held my hand. You reminded me that light only matters when it's shared. Keep it burning." Attached was a legal document, Eleanor's final amendment to the trust, granting Naomi full leadership of the foundation and a significant equity stake in Whitmore Industries. The numbers staggered her, but what mattered more was the faith behind them. A year later, the Whitmore Light Center opened downtown. Classrooms, mentorship halls, art programs. The plaque by the entrance read, "In honor of Eleanor Whitmore and the stranger who stopped to care." Naomi visited the statue, often two figures holding hands beneath a swirl of bronze snow. She would stand there, feeling the weight of every step that had brought her here. The cold nights, the betrayal, the vindication. One evening, Harold joined her, leaning on his cane. "You did it, kid." "We did it," she corrected, smiling. "All of us who didn't stop believing." He nodded. "Funny thing about truth, it freezes slow but melts strong." She laughed quietly, the sound carrying into the crisp air. As twilight deepened, she whispered to the statue, to the past, maybe to herself. I didn't let go. And somewhere in the fading snowlight, she thought she heard Eleanor's voice again, soft, proud, eternal. I know, dear. You never did. 5 years passed before Naomi realized how completely her life had changed. The Maple Light Center had grown from one building into a campus that filled 3 city blocks, classrooms, gardens. A library with glass walls that caught the morning sunday. The once forgotten town of Maplebrook was thriving again, drawing visitors, investors, and volunteers who wanted to be part of what she'd built. The papers called her the quiet billionaire. Though she still biked to work most mornings, same as before, scarf fluttering. Her reflection in shop windows reminding her of that night in the snow when everything began. She didn't feel rich. She felt responsible. Every dollar her foundation earned carried the weight of a promise she had once made to an old woman with trembling hands. Sometimes she'd stand outside the statue at the entrance, 2 figures clasping hands, snow swirling in bronze, and remember Eleanor's voice. Keep it burning. One morning, as she crossed the courtyard, she noticed a group of students painting a mural on the wall, bright blues, golden yellows, the words kindness scales in looping script. A little girl holding a paintbrush smiled up at her. Miss Naomi, is it true you were poor before you became a billionaire? Naomi crouched down, smiling. It's true, I didn't have much money, she said. But I had people who believed in me. That's worth more than any bank account. The girl thought for a moment. My grandma says kindness makes people rich. Your grandma's right, Naomi replied softly. She stayed to help them paint, sleeves rolled up, laughter echoing through the courtyard. Watching them, she realized the world she'd dreamed of, the one where compassion wasn't weakness, was slowly becoming real. Yet even in success, she carried ghosts. Some nights, when the building emptied and the lights dimmed, she would walk the halls alone. In her office hung Eleanor's portrait, eyes bright, smile knowing. You'd laugh at all this fuss, Naomi would whisper. You'd tell me to rest. But she couldn't stop. Not when there was still so much to fix. Her phone buzzed. Caleb, now director of operations, reminding her of the upcoming investor summit. Don't be late, he warned playfully. You're the face of the company now. I'll try to act like one, she teased, though the idea still felt strange. The summit was held in Chicago's downtown convention hall, filled with donors, journalists, and young entrepreneurs inspired by her story. When she stepped on stage, applause rippled through the crowd. For a moment she froze, blinded by the lights, but then she saw Harold sitting in the front row, older now, cane across his knees, beaming with quiet pride. She began. 5 years ago, I was a delivery girl with frozen fingers and no future. I didn't save a billionaire that night. I met a woman who taught me what wealth truly means. Eleanor Whitmore believed that power isn't measured by how much you keep, but how much you give away. And today, her legacy lives in every child, every family, every business we've helped stand on its feet. The audience fell silent. She continued, her voice steady, strong. I'm not here because I was lucky. I'm here because someone saw good in me before I saw it myself. And because one small act of kindness, one hand held in a snowstorm, can change everything. Cameras flashed, applause thundered, but she barely heard it. In her heart, she saw Eleanor again, standing by the piano, smiling that small, knowing smile. After the speech, reporters swarmed her with questions about expansion, investments, future plans. Naomi answered with grace, but thought only of how far she'd come from that girl who once slept behind a convenience store. Later that evening, after the gala ended and the city lights shimmered across the river, she and Caleb stepped outside into the cool night. You did it, he said, handing her a glass of champagne. You turned pain into something permanent. I just followed her example, Naomi said. She taught me that justice doesn't need a courtroom. It just needs people who don't give up. They stood in silence for a while, watching the skyline. You ever think about that night? Caleb asked. Every day, she said. It reminds me that the world isn't heartless, just cold sometimes. You have to be the warmth yourself. A light snow began to fall, soft flakes landing on her hair. She tilted her face upward, smiling. The sound of laughter drifted from inside the hall, mingling with faint music, and for a moment time folded back sirens, wind, the scent of winter, the weight of a stranger's hand. She whispered to the night. I didn't let go, Mrs. Whitmore. I kept the promise. The next morning, an email arrived from a national news outlet requesting an interview. Billionaire Naomi Brooks on how kindness built an empire. She almost deleted it. But then she thought of Eleanor's last letter. The light only matters when it's shared. Maybe it was time. A week later, the interview aired nationwide. She sat across from the host, simple gray sweater, no jewelry. People call you a miracle, the host said. Do you think that's true? Naomi smiled gently. I'm no miracle. I'm proof that when someone believes in you, you start believing too. And that faith that's contagious. And what do you say to those who still think kindness is naive? She paused, choosing her words carefully. Kindness isn't soft. It's the hardest thing you can practice in a world that profits from cruelty. It's what saves us, one small act at a time. The clip went viral not with outrage, but with quiet agreement. Letters poured in again, from janitors, teachers, retired soldiers. One man wrote, "You made me want to try again." That night, Naomi walked through the maple light courtyard alone. The statue shimmered under street lamps, flakes gathering on bronze shoulders. Bailey, now old and gray-muzzled, trotted beside her. She knelt, brushing snow from the plaque. We did it, she whispered. Your light reached everywhere. A voice startled her heralds, soft behind her. You're still talking to ghosts, kid? She laughed. Only the good ones. He leaned on his cane. Funny thing about ghosts, they hang around till they're sure you learned the lesson. What lesson's that? That goodness outlives the people who start it. She smiled, eyes misting. Yeah, she said. I think I finally understand. They stood together in silence as the town clock chimed 9. Snow kept falling, gentle and endless, wrapping the world in silver hush. Somewhere above, the church bells answered, their echoes carrying through the quiet streets of Maple Brook. Naomi looked up at the sky and whispered one last time. Thank you for not letting go. And for a heartbeat just long enough to make her believe it felt like another hand, light as memory, squeezed hers back.